Development, Planning, and Sustainability Committee to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Present.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and please excuse Councilman Bishop. Thank you. We're going to start with the zoning piece, Ordinance number 1520-2025 by Council Member Spencer. I know this is Ward 11 and 7, so we want to add, Councilman Davis and Hudson. An ordinance establishing the Lorraine Antiques Design Review District north and south of Lorraine Avenue between West 83rd Street and West 61st Place. Go ahead. Hi, Shannon.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Administrator, City Planning Commission. I'm here with Nate Lowell, the neighborhood planner for this area. And so this is a map change. The purpose is to grant oversight to the Far West Design Review and City Planning Commission for all exterior changes and demolitions along our commercial corridors and to protect and preserve our important urban fabric closest to our transit. And so the proposal here is to add the Lorraine Antiques Design Review District between West 83rd and West 61st Place to the east. And really the purpose of that is, as you can see here, it is this small area in green that we're proposing here. Everything around it is along Lorraine. It's this weird chunk that was left out of design review and Landmarks Commission design review purview, and something that Councilwoman Spencer, as well as Councilman Davis, have also included now in the new season, have also wanted to support here. So to give you some context, this is from West 83rd, north and south, and then the GCRTA station going towards the Zone Recreation Center, slightly east of West 65th Street. This is just giving you an idea of some of the notable places of why this area has been on the forefront to try to protect and have a little bit of oversight as it relates to design review, any type of new infill development, as well as any redevelopment of these sites. So you have the CPL Lorraine branch down on the west going up to Aspen Place, Century Antiques, the SSA offices, and the Zone Recreation Center, as well as the post office. This is just giving you some of the context of those photos, those notable places that we just named. West 83rd and Lorraine, this is looking east. And then you also have West 80th and Lorraine looking east, and really giving you the context. Now the context is a little bit old here, but it's still roughly the same outside of the snow that's currently down. You also have the Century Antiques building, so you can kind of see the kind of historical and the natural urban fabric that's here in context. And then going forward, you have a little bit more newer design, West 73rd and Lorraine, but notice how that fits in with the old historic context of Lorraine, the shopping district there. Again, just some more context photos, the historic USPS post office, and then West 65th and Lorraine as well, looking north. Just a few more contexts with Zone Recreation Center and then West 61st Place in Lorraine. You can see a mix of the older development as well as some newer development. And so that's the proposal, is really to add this small chunk called the Lorraine Avenue Antiques District. It'll fall into the Design Review District here that Nate can talk more about if you have questions, of the new near west side. Any questions?
Chief, are there other districts throughout the city that are antique, or is this the only one?
So this is just the name that they chose. There's various design review districts, and that I can see why that might be confusing. It won't be a landmarks district, but it is a design review district.
Got it, okay.
So it'll be under the purview of City Planning Commission.
Got it, okay. Councilman Austin?
Thank you. Through the chair, thanks for putting this together. I'll just be real brief. About one block is in Ward 7, and the other 99 blocks are in Councilwoman Hudson's ward, but she's an incredible supporter of this initiative. The antique shops up and down the street are very cute, and I completely understand our desire to preserve that urban fabric. So thank you for putting this together. Happy to see it to the finish line.
And I will say Councilwoman Hudson sent out an email in support of this piece. Councilman Slade? Okay. Are there any public comments, Madam Clerk? No? Okay. So any other questions on ordinance number, I gotta keep this open, 1520 from my colleagues? Hearing no other questions, ordinance number 1520-2025 has been approved. Please sign on. So now we're closing the zoning portion of the meeting, and then we're heading to the regular, we'll be hearing the regular DPS meeting. So please sign on. Thank you, Chief. Thank you. We didn't give you anything to do. They're a little harder, but, okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll. Present.
Here.
Thank you. Ordinance number 96-2026 by Councilmember Starr, an emergency ordinance designing the Woman Seaver Morgan Company building as a Cleveland landmark. Come up. Director Mersman.
Morning, Madam Chair. Dan Musson, Cleveland Landmarks Commission. We have Brad Whitehead and Sarah Jex from the Site Readiness Fund, and then Diana Wellman from Naylor Wellman. They're the Historic Preservation Consultants. We're here for the designation of 7000 Central Avenue, the Wellman Morgan Seaver Building, or company building. It's nominated by the Landmarks Commission in January, and we do have owner consent. So with that, I'll hand it over to.
Oh, turn your microphone, yeah. A little harder.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning.
for your time this morning. We are here to present the Wellman Seaver Morgan Engineering Company building at 7000 Central Avenue for listing as a designation as a landmark. The building is significant under engineering and industry. The Wellman Seaver Morgan Company pretty much put steel on the map. Samuel T. Wellman is considered the father of the open hearth. He had 97 patents. Going through the team members that made up that company, Charles Wellman as well had 27. John Seaver, he was kind of known for cranes. He had 27 as well. And then Thomas Morgan had 26. They were prolific. They were international. They built pretty much every steel factory from about 1896 to about 1915. Then obviously their patents start to spread out and others are doing it. They built the Niagara Falls hydroelectronic station. It's countless. In Cleveland, we all know them for the Hewlett Unloaders. That's, they helped revolutionize the movement of materials across the Great Lakes. So it's a very important company, and that was their Cleveland works. They did have a works in Akron as well. They also had a mining, a mining industry in Alabama. But this was their home. They had an office building on that property. It was torn down about 1970, and what remains is the complex that the industry was, where they were creating. They were both designers. They made the materials, and then they erected the materials. In addition to industry, steel industry buildings, they also designed the steel for most of our buildings downtown. The Caxton is one of them. So again, it's just a very important history to Cleveland.
Thank you. We don't have a presentation? We normally have photos.
We had one, that's why I was like, oh, I don't have my presentation.
I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm trying to give you an overview without it.
Oh,
But.
yeah, okay. This is my favorite part of DPS, like learning some history about our city.
I needed my prompts.
Anything else that you would like to add?
No.
Wanna?
Only remarks I definitely would give before we go into the presentation. This is a location that's right off of 71st and Central Avenue. It has been vacant for, since about 40, 50 years, which is a big issue. It became an eyesore. And then when we created the Sites Readiness Fund, one of the biggest things that the organization wanted to do is figure out how do we reimagine old buildings that have not been utilized. And also with this building, this is an opportunity to preserve some of the history. When you talk about the actual cranes that are in the building, they are built from 1900s where they were operating, like you heard, steel inside of the city of Cleveland back when it was Millionaires Row taking place on Euclid. A lot of that work was doing there, and it was also a location where people had housing right around the neighborhood where they could actually walk to work and operate. So some of the things that we're looking to possibly do is obviously preserve this building, so therefore there is no demolition of it, but how do we reimagine the space utilizing site readiness to be able to get a developer or get some type of businesses industry inside of that facility where we can be able to reimagine what it used to be and create something that would be modernized for us to have jobs creation in that site. So this is something that I look forward to partnering and discussing, and I do agree with designating the Wellman as Server Morgan Company building as a Cleveland landmark.
Thank you, Councilman Starr. We're close. So you have no plans as of now for any development and utilize the space?
Yes, we are presently in negotiations with a manufacturer who would be bringing several hundred jobs into this facility that would be focused in on neighborhood residents who could fulfill those jobs. And I would note as well from the Site Readiness Fund perspective, 90% of the buildings that we see, and we often do write-arounds with all of you in your wards, 90% of what we see needs to come down, either because it's structurally unsound or because it just doesn't fit modern manufacturing needs. This was one of the very first buildings that we saw in a write-around with Councilman Starr, and he pulled up in front of that building and pointed and said, "This one, fix this one." And it turns out the bones are good, as you'll hear in the presentation. And it's just a beautiful structure as well. And I'd note we've engaged the community in conversations. And soon after getting the building, I remember talking to one woman on her front porch who was within the shadow of the building. And I said, "What should we do with this thing? Is it time for this to come down?" And she said, "No, please don't tear this down. We spend all this time tearing things down. Let's keep this one."
Thank you for that.
Okay,
You wanna
so now
proceed?
I've
Okay.
got my prompts. Okay, so here it is. Like I said, the office building, which you're seeing on the right middle, that building is down, and then there's a few buildings in the back that have been demolished. From this picture in 1915, it got a little bit more of addition that brought it out, which is 7,000 Central Avenue. So this is just a bird's eye view of it to give you the sense of massing. It's 184,000 square feet. And it's pretty much an open floor plate. There is two areas where there is a second floor and a third floor. And you're going to see from ground to top, we're looking at 40 feet of open space. So that really allows it to be for manufacturing purposes. And, as a historic preservationist, the one thing that the National Parks loves more is when a building gets used as its original purpose. So this is, it's not going to be apartments, which is what we tend to do, right? So here's just some exterior pictures of the building. It does look decrepit. It's got graffiti all over it, but it's kind of an easy fix. The base of the building is brick. The upper areas are panel. We would be putting in an insulated panel because they had open hearths, so it was really warm in there in the winter. It will not be that warm if we don't do something about the exterior. And then there's a large amount of light, which is common to a factory building, that we'll be able to initiate. And then I don't have a good picture of it. This is one of those buildings that it's so big, and the way the sun shines on it, it's kind of always in the shade. But there, I think, are 14 dock bays along 71st. And then at the rear of the building, and this just gives you a sense of the interior, how big it is. At the rear of the building, there are 2 spurs that go into it. We've walked on them, don't do that. But the railroad said they will not allow us to reuse them. They're pretty crickety. There's just some more interior. So I'm standing up. There's a platform that you can stand, and so that's one of those cranes that Councilman Starr mentioned. There's a handful of other cranes. I really need an engineer to go in there and tell me what all the different cranes are, because that is not my area of expertise. But there's 19 of these ones right here that just, they go the full length of the building. So there it is in the 1913 Sanborn map, just to give you a sense of its size. And there it is again on the 1927 Hopkins. You can see those, I'll go back real quick. You can see those 2 spurs that go into it. And they come in at a 2nd floor level. And then there it is in 1953. So there's the interiors of kind of different sections, and to give you a sense of just how big it is. So again, Wellman-Sievert Engineering began in 1896 with Charles and Samuel T. Wellman brothers and John Seaver. As I mentioned, Samuel T. Wellman is known for being the father of open hearth. He started his career in 1860s. There's something called the Simon's Hearth, and he worked for them in Boston and was sent all over the country to implement. He perfected that design. And if you didn't catch it, my name is Diana Wellman. So this is my husband's great-great-grandfather. So I have a special interest in this. In 1902, they bring in Thomas Morgan. Thomas Morgan's father, Sr., had also an engineering company out of Alliance. He passes away, and for whatever reason, he chooses to not stay with his family company. He brings his money and joins them in 1902. And then there's just some highlights of the company through time. 1896, they're founded. 1900, they become Wellman-Sievert. And as you can see, they're making there's a handful of different types of furnaces, and again, not my area of expertise. But there's something called the tilting furnace. They start bringing that online. Oh, and I should bring you back. Samuel T. comes to Cleveland for Otis Steel Company. 1903, Thomas Morgan joins, and then there's our famous George Hewlett that designed the Hewlett unloaders. Wellman Engineering, they built those along the Great Lakes. They continue through, the partners are all dead by 1919. John Seaver dies in 1911. Charles and Thomas Morgan die in 1905 from a derailment of a train heading out to Mentor. And then in 1919, Samuel T. dies of a heart attack. The company continued, though. In 1930, the name changed to Wellman Engineering Company. They got a Army-Navy E Award for their contribution during World War II, and you'll see some images from that. Later, they joined with McDowell, who was also a very important engineering company in Cleveland, and become the McDowell-Wellman Engineering Company. By 1979, 1980, Dravo of Pittsburgh takes them over, and the building is vacated. So there's just some, these are the things they made. Those are big items that they were producing rapidly. And there's an open hearth furnace if you want to know what that looks like. Don't know how it works. Here's just a list in 1901 of the furnaces that they were installing across the country and across the world. That's the Caxton building under construction. As I mentioned, they designed the steel for that. Here's, John Seaver was known for his cranes, so here's just an example of cranes. Just again, these are just examples of cranes and things they were doing across the country. And I'll just kind of move through these. That's a coal chute. And these are all patents that you're looking at. There's our Hewlett unloaders. If you've ever had a chance, if I've got 5 minutes of your time, Google it. And you'll be amazed how smooth these things operated. They were just amazing engineering. And there's a coal bucket inside an ore boat, just to give you a sense of scale. So there they are inside the plant, the workers, on one of their canyons that they designed for the World War II. And then I'm just going to give you that little bit brief. We're listing this building on the National Register of Historic Places. It's being listed under engineering and industry, and then also for Samuel T. Wellman. That's the building behind them is Warner and Swayze, and that's Samuel T. that the arrow is pointing to. Swayze's kind of noticeable because he has that big beard, but that is a whole bunch of very important engineers from the city of Cleveland. If you look at those names, you'll recognize them. Samuel T., as I mentioned, is Open Hearth. He also founded a company called Wellman Bronze and Aluminum Company, and they were located at Woodland and 93rd. That building is demolished. They mostly provided parts for the Peerless Auto Company. And then I'm just sharing some family photos of Samuel T. The young boy in the bow is Holly G. Wellman. He ended up taking over for the company in 1919 and stayed with the Morgan Seaver Engineering Company through 1930, and then he switched over and went to Wellman Bronze. And there's the Wellman Bronze and Aluminum Company building that's now demolished. And then I thought this photo is great because it's called Old Timers, and they don't look very old to me. So, and then Jen, this is the reason why we're also listing it on the National Register for Samuel T. Wellman, because there's no other buildings that are left to represent him. His house on Euclid Avenue is long gone. It's where the Cleveland Clinic police station is. And then he had a house out in Menor, a country estate, one of the 70 country estates along Lake County. And then I think this is fun that they were, because they were doing work all over the country, all over the world. He ends up in 1900 in Egypt. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. So there's your history lesson.
Definitely a building worth saving. Congratulations again, Councilman Starr. I'm curious to know how many workers they had at that time.
Yeah, I'll have to try to figure that out. It sounded like it was a very efficient, steel industry in generally is very efficient. They talk about how it's a very dirty job, but the men that did that were highly skilled to be able to control the heat of the fire and that. So we'll try to find that out.
Well, thank you for that lesson. Are there any other questions? Oh, Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your help in getting this to the table so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This is we're working on a very timely project here, so I'm very excited about this. This is a wonderful adaptive reuse, and the historic designation is going to help us really make that possible. Thank you to Councilman Starr for being so involved on this. I put in a call to see if he knew about it. He's like, I've already been there. I've already talked to them. I've already been hours on this. I had no idea, so that's wonderful. One question, though, through the chair, about the rail spur. Well, first off, who owns that railroad track? Whose track is that? You got to get it green. It'll work.
There we go. Norfolk Southern owns the rail.
Okay. And so through the chair, if a future occupant wanted to rebuild a spur that tied in, would Norfolk Southern be amenable to that? That's what they do, or no? There's no tie-in there possible? I'm just...
Through the chair, we really had hoped so, but Norfolk and Southern said that it doesn't fit with current engineering and structural requirements for how you get to grade. So it's Norfolk and Southern who said no. Yeah.
Okay.
Because currently it comes in on the second floor.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I think they said that it's the turning radius and that a man actually has to get out of the train to make that happen. It's not something
Through the
that
chair,
can be,
even with that triangular piece to the northwest. Okay, all right. I just thought I'd ask. This is a fantastic project. I'm really excited about it. Thank you, everybody who's been working on this, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say this is something that's astonishing to me too, because I grew up in the area before Starr was born. So I'm just throw that out there, Starr. Just okay. So I walked that area. I lived in that area, and I seen when the building was in operable order when they had employees there. that was like the epitome of that area of people working in the central area. And it was safe, you know, it was doable. That was the bread, and that was the bread of people lifestyle in that area, factories. And just over time, to see how it withered away and became empty, and to been empty all these many years, it's unimaginable that it can be restored. But you're sitting here at the table with one of the best landmark staffers here. I have to give him credit on this because they do an excellent, excellent job. I'm being biased per se because I'm on the Landmark Commission too, but I have met the Landmark staff and they are just superbly experienced of going through these buildings and looking through them and looking at the good bones. So I really appreciate Dan being at the table supporting this. And I know that is something, if he's at the table, then I know it's a go. So my question is, Chair, to the team here, how soon that you think that that you're gonna go in after this landmark, how soon, you know, will it be starting work or process that's gonna be open per se? Is that a fair question?
Through the chair to Councilwoman Gray, very fair question. And we're in collaboration with Councilman Harsh, we're putting together the financing package with the company now, which we hope to have tied up in the coming 2 to 3 months, with renovations hopefully starting in early '27.
That's great.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Starr, I know you gave some remarks. Anything?
No, just for the context, when you think of this location and you think about the actual area, it's 2 different buildings that I definitely would like to talk about. Definitely this project, Noelleman, which is located on 71st and Central. But then also when you're looking at presentation, and it showed that in 1916, there was an actual meeting that was taking place where people in the manufacturing industry, whether it was steel, was having a meeting at Warner Swasey building. And if we're familiar with Warner Swasey, they were one of the ones who manufactured during World War II, where they had ships, planes, tanks for the entire war that was coming out of Cleveland. And when you talk about it back then, they had about 7,000 Clevelanders actually working in a factory to do that type of work. So now that we fast forward to today, the Warner Swasey building closed down in the 80s, and we just passed the final package and closed on the finances for Warner Swasey to be converted into 112 mixed residential housing units, as well as storefronts at the lower part of the complex, which is going to break ground sometime this year. And then in addition, when you fast forward from 57th and Carnegie, just up a few blocks, you have a location that was a manufacturing industry that was closed as well during that time. And now we're here today doing some great work to be able to designate it as a landmark, but then also utilize it to be able to use manufacturing and create more jobs in the community like they once set out. So this is overall bringing the entire neighborhood who have manufacturing facilities that were eyesores to back activation. So I support ordinance number 96-2026, which is taking place in Ward 5.
Thank you, Councilman Starr. Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, ordinance number 96-2026 stands approved. Please sign on. This concludes DPS this morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to all my colleagues. Meeting adjourned.